My friend, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast, a podcast that brings you exclusive interviews from experts all over the world with life-changing work that you didn't even know existed. I'm your host, Prima Jope, a partner for those that are ready to take their life-changing work in front of those whose life or business depends on it. Please follow or subscribe for more. Welcome, my friend. Welcome to this one. Today I have Timothy Waterman with me, and I recall the first time I talked to Timothy, I had no idea that his business was a thing. There was, but this takes me way back. There was a lady who came and she was a channel, but I didn't know what a channel was. As you already know, by the time I started this podcast, I had zero knowledge with this spiritual world. I had no idea. And so I started one day at a time asking the experts what they do. And that's how I know the little things that I know. And so the first woman that came, she was a channel. And I was like, what is a channel? And she said a lot of things. And after the conversation, I remember saying, you must be out of your mind. Is this even a thing? I had no idea what she did. It was all woo. If you're in the 3D world, you probably can relate. It was all woo. I was like, how does this even work? How does this even help people? And then I was like, I don't think we're fit. And then she didn't record. And another person came and they had the same idea. They listen to God, get messages, give them to people. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, why can't people just listen to God? Why do people need another person to listen to God? And so I was confused. Still, that person didn't come on the channel because I didn't understand what they did. I was like, there's doing something I don't understand, but there is you being able to explain it in a way that I can understand it. And I felt like, how do I interview someone who I have no idea what they do? And so I didn't interview that person. And then Timothy came. And I'm like, okay, this is the third person coming on the show. Clearly, this is a thing. Whether I know it's a thing or I don't know it's a thing, it's a thing. And so I got more interested in Timothy and what he does. Because when I went to his website, it was clear what he did. I felt like he understood how to say it for somebody that wasn't in 5D to understand it. And so that's how we ended up here, because I felt like I understood what Timothy did. And I would like to explain to you what I think Timothy does. And he's going to come on and kind of say, Prima, you're so off. This is not what I do. So this is what I think that channeling and helping people through channeling and receiving their messages actually is. I think, or I believe that people have been conditioned to believe so many things. I feel like the world is so noisy. There's so much noise going on. We've been told so many things. We've been taught so many things that we don't know what is right and what is wrong anymore. And that has led us to make decisions that we would not have made if we had been in tune with our intuition. And so what I feel has happened to the world is intuition has drifted away and away and away and away. And that is why we need a coach for everything. Very soon we are going to start hiring a coach on, I don't know, how to wake up in the morning. I don't know, maybe there's a coach that exists. That's why we are now hiring a coach for everybody, how to cough, how to breathe. I don't know. There's coaches for everything. But really what I think is happening is that our intuition is going further and further and further. And with all this noise, we're giving away all our power to the external world. And we are no longer in that position where we know what is good for us. There is a category of people that are there right now where you no longer know what to do. And when you're faced with the major life crisis, so your marriage is not working out and you may want to have a divorce or file for divorce, or there is someone in your life and you're going to probably take a step to say, yes, I want to marry this person. Or you're supposed to leave your small town like me and go live in the UK or wherever. And that's like a big transformation. It gets really hard to do because you're not in touch with the intuition. And so you don't know what to do. You don't know what is right anymore. You don't know if you can make the right decisions. And if it's a life defining moments. You don't want to guess around that. And so what I think Timothy does with his channeling is he helps people calm their mind, I think, so they can listen to that intuition. So maybe in the beginning, he helps step into that space where you can make a decision from that calm place of being aligned to yourself. So the channeling is really him connecting with your energy to help you listen to yourself. And I think later on, what he does then is he teaches you how to quiet your mind so that you do that. That's where I am with Timothy's work. And I think that there's some things that I'm not saying well, but I think that is what he does. He helps you get the fish, or helps you get in touch with your soul so you can resurrect that intuition, so you kind of just know what is wrong and what is right for you, so that that clouded judgment goes away. But I think that also his long-term goal is to teach you how to fish, teach you how to go in and find ourselves. So, Timothy, my friend, welcome to the show. Finally, you're here, and I'm excited to be diving into this whole business that I had no idea existed a while ago.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to be here with you. And yeah, you said a lot of things really well, actually, because what I do is I feel act as a guide to help people, as you said, hear themselves more deeply, because it is my understanding that we're all guided. This to me, based on my own life experience and based on a lot of other people that I know that listen to their intuition, that life is not random. Like, we are guided, and a lot of people refer to that guidance in different ways. Some people, if they follow a religious path, they might say like Holy Spirit, they might say like higher wisdom, higher power. Some people just say intuition. Some people say it's my gut. There's a lot of different ways to reference just that there's something wiser that's guiding us. There's something that has like an all-encompassing view of our life and knows what's best for us. Like, it knows the decisions that come from energy that are probably going to backfire, because usually these are decisions that come from fear, feeling small, feeling limited, feeling not enough, feeling unworthy. And when we make decisions from those energies, that's not wrong. It's just that those don't tend to lead to results that we find favorable. So it's not wrong. It's just that usually it ends up coming back in a way that's not favorable. We don't prefer the results from choices in those energies. And then we have the opportunity to operate from, courage, faith, belief, that we're guided, belief that we have great things to offer, belief that life wants us to have an amazing experience and experience wonderful things in this life. And when we, so you could say confidence, when we act from confidence and belief that life is meant to be good for us, typically the results that come from those decisions, we find more favorable. So, and I'm not saying it's a blank slate either way. I'm just saying in general, that's the way it tends to go. And so, yeah, as you said, a lot of people are conflicted because when we come into this human experience very early on, this is what I've studied, is that our mind is like an operating system, and it's basically memorizing programs from day one. And so the formative years, like 0 to 7, we're basically creating our worldview, like how we experience the world. And for each one of us, it's going to be different. And a lot of us got a lot of limitation, a lot of limiting beliefs, or we might have been told things about us that were very negative, and we just started to believe that was true. And that's just like in our household environment, or maybe in our school, or maybe in our religious establishment. Then when we go out into the world, let's say like university, things like that, there's even more beliefs that come in. And when we don't question them, and if they're limiting in nature, we just start to kind of assume that's the way things are. And to me, what happens is when we accept limiting beliefs, or beliefs that cause us to feel like less than or put ourselves down,
Mm.
That's not our truth. That's not that inner guiding light. That is something else. That's like some kind of negativity, limitation, self-condemnation. That's not our truth, because the inner guiding light would never put us down. It's always going to encourage us. It's always going to invite us to stand up and live this life again, even if we have to do that gently at first. And so, as you said, there can be a lot of noise because there's all these programs, all these voices, all these opinions that we've absorbed. And when that's floating around in our head, it can be like, well, which one do I choose? Which one do I choose? However, what I've found is that in my heart or my gut, somewhere in between, there is my intuition, my inner guiding light that just always knows the right move. For me, it also comes from the energy of love and empowerment.
Mm.
And so when I listen to that voice, things just turn out way better. It's a calm voice, it's a certain voice. It doesn't bounce around like the voices in the head, because to me, the voices in the head are all these opinions that we've memorized.
Mm.
It doesn't come from limitation, it comes from empowerment. And so when I
Mm.
listen to that voice, things just turn out for me better. Even if it's just a conversation, things turn out better in that conversation when
Mm.
I listen to that voice. And so, yes, I find myself being a guide to help others hear that inner guiding light for them, because that inner guiding light is speaking to them. It does have answers, it does have guidance, but a lot of times, as you said, the head is so busy that people can't really, they're not really as tuned into their intuition as they would like to be. And so I
Mm.
act as a mirror to help people really hear their own truth more deeply, without getting messy about it. Like when I'm in that state, the channeled state, like it's very firm with helping people hear themselves and you know, not get like meddled and confused about it. It's just like, no, this is what you really feel. Like, this is what you feel, you know, just hear it, just hear it. Just this is what you really feel. So that
Mm.
people don't get lost in all the noise and the chaos, if you will.
Mm. It's interesting that we've got here because it's just interesting. I can't imagine one day not being able to hear myself. That's crazy. That's crazy. But think about conditioning. Think about what the teachers told you. Think about what your great grandparents say, what your parents told you had to be true, what everybody has told you to do. There's so much noise. I'm even confused how we're still able to connect with our intuition, because a lot of things happen and everybody wants to give you an opinion. I don't know how and when, but I think when I started to build my own business, I started tuning out people. When
Mhm.
I decided I didn't want to go the corporate road or the corporate career, I got a lot of resistance from family, from everyone, friends. And I was like, okay, there's a strong calling that is saying, go here, go build an online business. And what's funny is I'm in Uganda. And so internet is a hassle. Power is a hassle. Everything is a hassle. To even get anything genuine is a hassle, And it kind of looked like impossible, but it was so clear that I had a pull to do the business. And so when I started to do it, everybody who loved me jumped and said, no, you can't. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. It was so powerful. And I was like, I'm going to make a decision, and that's to shut everyone down. I think that is where I started to correct my intuition from. And then I shut everyone down. I came online, and for the longest time, I think there's a time when I blocked my family members because things were not working and they were not helping, telling me, we told you so. And I think for the first year, I blocked my family members who just couldn't get out of my life, who couldn't just not be in my everyday. And so I just blocked them. And I just went through my hustle, my struggle, and things were not working. And I didn't know what was not working. And anyone I knew wasn't a good idea because they were like, yeah, don't do it, it won't work. And I learned to tune that out. And I remember 9 months later, I closed my first 2K sale. And then my mind said, you see, all you had to do was just keep going. And that business turned out well. And other things happened. And then I met my husband. And this path started to be more rewarding than the fear I had. And so my body, I think brain or something kept saying, you see, when you hear that voice, follow it because it's rewarding. And so the more rewards I got, the more I surrendered. The more rewards I got, the more I got comfortable with being like listening to that voice. But I can imagine if someone is in a place where they've done a lot of mistakes, it is the opposite effect. I can't trust myself. If you've listened to so many people who had no idea what you were supposed to be doing and things turned out the wrong way, now you feel like you need a coach to even breathe. You feel like, oh my God, I can't get nothing right, which I think is the place that Timothy comes in and said, no, the intuition is still there. We just gotta wake it up. But Timothy, I do have a question, which is before even I dive into your story, I get confused about the different states you have to be in to do the work you do. And I don't want to make any assumptions. So can you explain to people how I leave your body and be in another body, or, because that is what scared me about the first person. She sent me to videos and I could see her leaving her body and going in another body. And I was like, oh no, no, I don't understand this. So can you explain to someone who probably is not used to this work, channeling work, and that transition of the human Timothy to another Timothy that can connect with another soul? Help us there, because I don't want to freak anyone out.
Yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, it's always good to clear this aspect of the work and the service up. So I don't go anywhere. This is the best way that I like to describe it. So because of all the conditioning and all the noise we've been talking about, the way I feel, the way I see it working is that a lot of us are kind of moving through our lives, based on all these voices in our head, the programs, the conditioning, and the soul's always there in the background, and it's doing its best to chime in and be like, when we're at a crossroads, it'll say go left. It'll do its best to get our attention and say go left, because it just knows that left is the best way. Now, as we've been talking about, each one of us have a different ability to hear that, go left, or if we hear it, whether we're actually going to honor it and trust it. And so to me, I feel like a lot of us, the soul's always there in the background, but we're more used to listening to the conditioning and the programs in our head throughout the day, which can, be cluttered and confusing and kind of chaotic at times. So what I feel is happening, and there's been a lot of research around this as well. There's been scientific study at this point of channeling, and what I feel is happening for me is that my soul is really coming to the forefront, and to me, I hear my soul wisdom through my heart. So I'm relaxing into my heart space, which to me is where I hear that intuitive voice, that voice of greater expanded wisdom, you could say. And because it's so clear, the wisdom is so clear, the energy, the words are so clear, like I just speak from that place, so you could say it's soul wisdom coming to the forefront. And because of my understanding how creation works, like we're all one energy, creation is all one thing. And so one soul's wisdom will recognize the wisdom of another soul. It'll just, it'll resonate because we all share the same energy, the same one consciousness. And so when I'm in my soul, sometimes offering a perspective, because we're all one energy, what one soul is offering a lot of times will resonate with another soul, because it's just like, again, we're all one consciousness at the end of the day. That's when it's like offering like maybe perspectives to help people see a situation differently, because sometimes we're so zoomed in a situation that we can only see it one way, and the soul's really good about like zooming out and like, well, what if you saw it like this, or maybe you're not seeing an opportunity or a gift here or something like that. So there's a lot of like soul perspectives that come through that help people see situations and circumstances differently, which resonates with people, so much of the time, because again, like, we all have that one soul consciousness, the greater picture that we're all sharing, that we're all a part of. And then there's the part again where there's the the soul guidance to help people hear their own truth, to hear their own answer. So
Mm,
it's not, it's not all the time just like an answer coming through or a perspective coming through. Sometimes it is very much guiding the person to go into themselves and hear their own answer, get more clear. So to me, it's all coming from that soul perspective. And I'm just so tuned into it, which to
mm,
me is the energy, the portal of my heart, you could say, that
mm,
that's all I'm hearing. I'm only hearing that perspective. And the reason I feel it's so powerful is because people can feel how good it feels to
mm,
hear that deep answer, that deep wisdom within themselves. There's just something that feels good about it, that usually feels just so right about it, aligned, you could
mm,
say. And when
mm,
people start to hear that perspective within themselves, typically they just start to relax. They start to feel more easy about things. And so that's all that's really happening is it's just basically a tuning process. And I've gotten very good at tuning into that place within me to really reflect back to people and help them tune into that place within themselves
mm.
also more deeply.
I love what you're saying. I think at some point I had to reflect back to my own life. And I think my intuition is there. Like when I'm faced with the decision A, B, I just know where to go because it's clear. What I don't know is the future stuff. And there's this one church called One Church LA. It's for Pastor Trudy Roberts with his wife. And I have received a lot of future past messages from that church, and they all came true. And that has become my church for a long time, even though it's like online. I've never been to LA to go and physically be a member, but they have said things that came to life. And that has led me to trusting that there is something there. But I never saw it as a divine channel until I started to do this work, which I'm doing now. And then I was like, oh, that's a divine channel. Because every day going through life, I can make decisions, no problem. But I don't have the ability to see the future and if something is going to manifest or not. And they have a way of just putting a title down that when I'm scrolling, I go, that's my message. How obvious can this be? This is my message. And I listen to it, and they're putting a plan A to Z of that thing. And I'm like, wow, whatever this is, it's true, but I have no idea. I didn't have like an idea of the connection. And so what I think is that they pulled my spirit or something, and then they channel messages for me. And when I listen further, there are churches for people who are called or they have a calling on their name and they get a little bit hazy with like the how to step into it or how it will look like. And that's like, when you are saying if you feel called here, that's because your soul is called for more, or you're anointed to do something, or there's a calling on your name that needs to come to life. And I was like, wow, you know? So the question I have for you is the work you do also is future pacing or future looking also channeling, or do you just channel the moment where it is right now? How different is that work from the work I'm getting from that church? Is it the same?
Yeah, so what I do doesn't have anything to do with the future. So
Mm,
there may be in terms of seeing what the future might be, in that sense, because technically in my understanding, there's no way to tell for sure because we can
mm,
make different choices. We can make different choices every day. We can go back and forth, we can change our mind. So there's sometimes things that maybe you can pick up on. Again, you've been guided to these messages where there could be, let's say, a certain
mm,
trajectory that you're on right now,
mm,
and you're finding these messages to help encourage you to continue on this trajectory. And so,
mm,
because you're already kind of on the path, and these messages are helping you stay on your path, you
mm,
are then experiencing where your path was always leading. You could say something like that. But
mm,
technically, you have the free will to, just stop at any point and be like, nope, I'm going to go in a completely different direction.
mm. Yeah, I
So
know.
there's no way to tell for sure. However, if you're on a certain trajectory,
Mm,
you know, there's times where, again, when you get those encouraging messages to help you to
mm,
stay with it,
mm,
just, stay with it. It's going to pay off, that kind of encouragement. eventually you do
Mm.
see the payoff because, you know, you
You
stayed with
keep
it.
on so it's less of a message and less more of my, because like when I was starting this, I was kind of going, yeah, but you know how well, and you know, I like this has never been done, and so it's gonna be new, and people are gonna think it's not gonna work until one day they look at you and they go, "How did she do that?" Until everybody that was crushing it in your industry looks at you and say, "How did she do that?" People are gonna look at you and they won't understand what you're doing, but what they will sense or feel is that there is something about you that is divine with the work, and so that will attract people who are on that vibration, and that will be a trajectory of a market in itself. And it doesn't have to look like anything you've done. It doesn't have to look like the person who is leading the market. Just go. Maybe you are the new market leader, you know? And I was like, oh, that's so helpful, you know? And I think it's that confirmation that maybe makes me pick the right choice or stay aligned or bring, like I use that to kind of bring it to life. So to your answer, I think yes. It is more like you're on the right path. Don't even think about it. Don't even turn. There's no corners. This is it. Just keep showing up and it will happen. So a message like that is useful because we as human beings can get distracted. And so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Tell me about a little bit about like how did you even get here? How did people become, how do you get into this world? How did you start doing this work? Because I think it's important for people to know that you've spent a decade, you know, trying to listen to yourself. The way that I look at Timothy is like a monk. You know, those monks who spend most of their lives praying and they just have this clear line of communication with God that you wonder if it's accessible to you, but really they spend their entire life doing that. And so their ability to remove blocks and get that line of sight, you can't compete with because you're in this world where everything is happening. And so I think Timothy is like that. He's done this for a decade. And so imagine how much muscle he's built with this ability. But I want him to tell his story because then you can kind of connect the dots and go, oh, now I get why Timothy actually does this work. Take us there, Timothy. I'd love to hear the story.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to share. And real quick, I just want to make sure I answer your last question really precisely. So,
Mm,
yeah, so when someone comes for a session, like it's all about what's happening now. It's all about creating
mm,
clarity for life situations now, you know,
mm,
life questions, life situations now. So it is about creating that clarity for whatever is going on in life now. So I just want to make sure I said that
mm. But
succinctly.
but still, Timothy, I think if I am in a place of darkness and I don't know whether to
Mhm,
stay or live in my marriage, even the decision to go, you're gonna be better off if you leave. That's a
mhm,
future-based decision because I could stay in this marriage and anyway leave 10 years later. Or I could decide to shape my future by leaving this marriage because of that certainty that it's gonna be a much better decision if you leave now, because then now for the next 10 years, I may decide or I may meet someone that is, you know, the person for me. And I think that even though you don't predict the future, I think that the decisions you hope people make shape the future. It's just what I pick up. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because again, I am willing, I'll say this confidently. People already know. Like
Mm,
if they're not feeling a relationship
mm,
anymore, they already
mm,
know. A lot of times
mm,
people deep down, like they're already kind of like checked out. A lot of
mm.
times it's just the courage to actually be
Done.
honest about it.
Mm,
You know,
I know.
people fear hurting other people. They fear speaking the truth. You know, they fear saying like, "Hey, I'm not feeling this anymore," because they're so worried about all of the falling apart that's going to happen, you know. And so because they're so afraid of the falling apart that, you know, may happen, and they may kind of catastrophize and seeing it being as horrible.
Mm,
Whereas, you know, sometimes people expect the worst. And if they're just honest and say, like, hey, I'm not feeling this anymore, who knows? The other person might say, yeah, I'm not really feeling it anymore either. So, like, you know,
mm,
let's just kind of listen to ourselves and just say, hey, it was great. And, you know, um, but, you know, it's the fear that tends to keep people from really honoring what they already know and feel to be true. So yeah, as to your
Mm,
point, yeah, it's the decisions we make now do shape our future. Absolutely. I agree with that.
mm,
Uh, and so then shifting into your next question,
mm,
yeah, I the reason I found this path of just finally listening to finally listening to my own heart was
mm,
because I tried life the other way. You know, I built a life that was based on everything I learned in media and,
mm,
just institutions, whether it be just kind of like schooling and religious institutions, like all these different things. Like I built a life that was quote unquote like normal,
mm,
in air quotes. And I was really unhappy because I had all the boxes checked. I had found myself in a marriage. I was living in a nice home with my husband at the time, had a dog, had a job that paid the bills. It was a job that was very stressful and I really
mm,
didn't enjoy it. But it checked the box of paying the bills and people just told me that's all that mattered, just get something that pays the bills. Well,
mm,
I wasn't enjoying myself every day. It was very, very stressful, intense, high pressure work. And that
mm,
really taxed me, mentally and emotionally for a long time. And so just before I turned 30, I kind of had like a come to moment where I was like, I'm about to go into my 30s and like I really haven't enjoyed my 20s that much. Like my 20s have been kind of chaotic, like
mm,
stressful, um, very heavy emotionally. And I said, I do not want my 30s to be like my 20s. Like I just don't. And
mm,
a lot of things, began to crumble. Like, the marriage, like we just have become different people. We just had a lot of we saw our lives going in different ways. For instance, like, I knew that I didn't want to have children and that
mm,
was something that was important to my partner at the time. And so like we just had different visions for life and I had become a very different person. And because through my 20s I just evolved. Like who I was at 22 was not who I was at 30. Like I wanted a lot of different things from life at that point. And so in my marriage we had already kind of like began to go on two different paths even though we were still together. My health began to crumble.
mm,
It was very hard for me to do anything professionally that didn't feel aligned with my heart because just when my soul wasn't in it, I just kind of felt so empty and hollow inside. So
mm,
everything kind of crumbled. And I just asked myself, especially when my health really began to crumble, I asked myself, what is the one thing I've never tried in this life? Like, what's the one thing I've never tried? And the
mm,
answer was, I've never listened to my heart. I'm doing life the way everyone else is telling me to do life. And
mm,
what's the result? I'm not happy at all. Everything's crumbling, I'm miserable, and I'm just not enjoying life. And I don't want my 30s to be like my 20s.
mm,
And so, what my heart told me when I really listened was it said, you've always wanted to study acting, you've always wanted to live in Los Angeles. Go do that. Like,
mm,
go experience that. Like, that was the wisdom of my heart. Again, very clear, very to the point, very direct.
mm,
And so, that was going to take a lot of courage. Like, I was going to have to walk away from everything, the entire life that I had built, family. I was still in the hometown I grew up in. Like I'd
mm,
only ever lived there. And so it required walking away from everything. But that was the guidance, that was the guidance of my heart. And when I said yes to it, everything began to change. The
mm,
marriage undid itself very amicably, like all of a sudden we had this conversation and my husband said, like, I know you have this dream, like you should go do it, and he said, it's not my dream, so I won't be coming with you. This
wow,
is where this is where our paths, would really go different ways and we'd no longer be together. And he said, this is your dream, you need to go for it. He said, like you're here having this life now. Like if this is your dream, go do it. And so that was the biggest pinnacle. Like once I knew that situation had like come undone and in a very graceful way, I was like,
mm,
okay, like I really can go do this. So that's what I did. You know, it wasn't easy. It took a lot of courage. There was a lot of emotions, you know, like walking away from an 8-year relationship isn't easy. There was a lot of stuff that came up. However, I kept putting one foot in front of the other, and I made the transition. And I even moved to LA without having a job. I just had savings, but I just had that faith, you know, that belief as you talked about in terms of your calling. And yeah, within a month of moving to LA, I did find a job that was able to support me and get me established there. And when I got to LA, I just really felt like I was finally able to be myself. Like, you know, I've always been a creative person, an expressive person, an artistic person, and I never felt connected to any of that like in my hometown. But in LA, it was everywhere, you know, and people were just yeah, just being themselves, expressing. It felt so good to be around that. And that also led me to the path of metaphysics, you know, which is understanding the unseen world, you know, understanding more about how the unseen world works, which includes our intuition. Like we can't see that inner knowing, but we can hear it. And so, yeah, just, you know, it was about studying everything. First of all, like really doing my own inner work, you know, my own healing, my own introspection, you know, all the journaling, the shadow work, all of that, so that I could begin to release myself from, you know, all of the programming, the conditioning, at least the heavier ones that had run my life thus far. And that's when I began just to be able to hear my own voice, my own truth even more deeply, because now I was on the path of listening to my heart. And then the practice became listening to my heart about everything, about every decision. I'm not saying it always went smoothly. The head can be very tempting. The head likes to come in and try to, you know, take control. However, I had lots of opportunities to practice coming back to my heart. And yeah, like you said, a decade. And now it's just, that's my primary aim and intention, is to listen to my heart as much as possible.
What's the one thing you know now that you didn't know then that has made all the difference in how you feel today, how you show up and make a decision? What's the one thing that has shifted from the 20-year-old you to the, how old are you now?
Oh, I'm 40 now.
Whoa, so I was like, okay, so that's like the decade anyway. So what has massively shifted from like your 20s to the 40-year-old you now? If you were to pick one thing and go, this is what I know better now that I've gone through all this school of hard knocks.
Really, it comes down to that self-trust and tuning in, like really tuning in. Because there still can be high pressure, you know, like opinions that come from the outside. And, you know, then there's the societal programs, you know, that like are very entrained in a lot of people. And those a lot of times are not honoring, you know, our inner truth. And so what has changed for me is that I really get quiet, I really tune in, and I really look to hear, you know, what that calm, collective, intuitive, you know, soul voice, if you will, has to say. And when I hear that, I I honor it. I do my very best to honor it. And that's what's shifted the most, because again, that perspective just serves me better. It serves my life better. It serves, you know, the people in my life, because yeah, you know, it's an example as well. It's an example of operating from that calm place as opposed to like a stressful, chaotic place. And that's the example I want to set, is operating from that voice of calm within.
You keep saying coming from a place of calm, peace, connected, being at ease, love, and you keep saying there's another place, fear. Explain to me those two different places and what role they play in intuition and the work you do. Because you keep saying peace, calm, connected, ease, but I think there's another version. And so you keep saying in tune, out of alignment. And I'm like, okay, Can you distill down a little bit of the two states so that we can tell where we are right now and if we're making decisions based on the ego or based on that inner wisdom?
Yeah, of course. So the way that I like to look at it is that many societies have
Mm,
been built in a way where we are taught that we are separate from life, that
mm,
we are separate from creation. It's kind of like, oh, I'm here, I am this thing, but life is kind of like something different, you know. It
mm,
feels very separate, you know, distinct. Whereas to me, life is all one thing. It's all one intelligence. To me,
mm,
it's very intelligent because if you look, you just look around, like the trees are designed perfectly, the streams are designed perfectly, the oceans, the sun, like, you
mm,
know, it's been discovered that the earth is in the exact right space for us to
mm,
get just the right amount of light and warmth to
mm,
sustain life. Like if it was a little bit further, it would be too cold. If it was a little bit too closer, it'd be too hot. So
mm,
like, you know, life is very intelligent. Like there's impeccable design.
mm,
And so to me, it really is about tuning into that greater life intelligence, that greater life wisdom, which, you know, I also refer to as soul wisdom that does exist within. And again, for me, I usually hear it someplace between my heart and my gut. It's in that region, if you will. And then there's the societal programming, which to me comes from a place of separation where it says, you know, kind of like a lot of times it's life is against us, you know, life
mm,
is dangerous, you know, we should always be looking out for the worst case scenario. That is coming from a place of fear. It's coming from distrust. It's coming from, I am
mm,
separate from life, as opposed to the other side of the coin is life is me, you know, like life is me, I am life. And
mm,
so, again, a lot of us through this culturing, you know, I mean, I know there's a lot of different countries where we're listening to stuff all around the world these days. For me, I come from Western culture, and
mm,
Western culture very much to me has been teaching separation for a very long time. That, you know, you can't trust life, always be looking out for the worst case scenario. You know, there's danger around every corner. Things can always turn south in the split of a second. To me, that is just all based in distrust of life. So it's fear, it's worry,
mm,
anxiety, panic. And when we're in that energy, typically the choices that come out of it can be very chaotic.
mm,
And as you become more aware, because what's happening on the planet is, you know, everyone's at a different stage, but our level of awareness is increasing. You know, we're coming out of these programs and we're coming more into presence. And the more we're in presence, the more we can see what's really going on and the more we can feel energy. So
mm,
I'll just give an example. Like I'm a very present person. And so
mm,
I can read people really well. I can see people as they're showing up in the moment and the energy they're in. When
mm,
someone is chaotic and panicked, like it's as clear as day to me. You know, I can just be like,
mm,
whoa, this person is like, they're all over the place, you know, like their mind's bouncing all over the place, you know, they're not calm, they're just like
mm.
they're frantic. I can see that very clearly because I've become just very present.
Mm. So what can you read from my start? And
Yeah,
you don't have to make me feel good. What can you read from my side?
yeah. Well, just the reason I was sharing that is that again, if someone's making choices from that place, that frantic place, I would
Mm,
imagine you know, a good number, if not all of those choices will backfire. They won't be happy
mm,
with those choices. Where if
mm,
they're in that calm, collected, just like tuning in, having
mm,
heard that answer that comes from that deep presence and knowing, like I'm willing to bet that those choices will turn out way better. Like
mm,
much less, sorry, must, why can't I say the word? Much less drama, you know,
mm,
much less drama, chaos, you know, backfiring. So
mm.
that's the difference, you know. If you want less drama, I say hear the heart, hear the presence, hear the soul. That's a good way to put it. And then from you, yeah, like you're very focused. You know,
Mm,
I tend to notice that you're just very focused. I do feel that you listen because you always seem to know what you want to say, and you say it with a clean and clear, smooth delivery. Um, you feel very present to me. Like you don't seem like you're everywhere else. You seem like you're very here. And
Mm,
yeah, and relaxed. You seem pretty relaxed anytime I've been in your presence. So that's what I see.
mm. Thank you. I don't know if I think after doing this spiritual awakening and going deep, who knows, Prima could be a channel, the new channel.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
even
for
funny
sure.
for me to say. Okay,
Yeah.
I do. Someone once came here and said there's two versions or two places three places you can be. You can be in a place where life is happening to you. You can be in a place where life is happening for you. I don't know the order. Or you can be in a place where life is happening through you. And I wonder if that's connected to what you're saying right now, that there's I don't know, different places you can be in your life. And I don't know how that is connected to what you're saying right now, but I feel like there's an element of what you're saying that is connected to that.
Yeah, a slight tweak on the third one that you offered. The way I like to say it,
Mm,
the one that resonates with me because it's something that I also heard. It just really resonates with me that life is happening from you. And
mm,
what I mean by that is that I truly feel that we are here to master life experience. We have the opportunity to master life as a human being on
mm,
earth.
mm,
And you could say the mastery is basically essentially the fruits of the spirit, which are, loving kindness,
mm,
calm, peaceful, um, you know, being in service to others, doing good. Like these are things that are mastery of the soul, mastery of the spirit to me. So we have that
mm,
opportunity. We also have free will. So even though we have the opportunity, doesn't mean we have to actually lean into that. However,
mm,
it's an opportunity that's on the table for all of us. And to me, as I've leaned into that more and more, it's a life that feels a lot better. It's a lot better. So the soul to me is always going to invite us on that path, the mastery of life path. But
mm,
because we have free will and we have a mind, we can resist it. We can try to go the other way. It may
mm,
not be an enjoyable life when we try to go the other way, but we can go the other way uh, with the free will.
mm,
And so life is happening of you, life is happening from you. To me, what that means is the
mm,
soul is setting up circumstances in your life for mastery, from that
mm,
greater expanded soul level wisdom that just knows what's best. So
mm,
it's bringing in situations to invite you to master your life and to have a more enjoyable life. What we
mm,
do with the opportunities from our personality self, because
mm,
our personality is it's very focused. It has lots of things that it's memorized, where the soul just knows everything. It knows what's best in all situations. So
mm,
the soul's everything comes from our soul. All of our life circumstances come from our soul.
mm.
And then it's like what we do with that on the personality level that makes all the difference.
Mm. I'd love for you to take us through that process of chaos. I need to do this. I don't know if it's the right choice. Timothy, you gotta help me. Someone comes in, they're in a place of they have no control over their own life, and they're saying, I don't know what to do. What should I do? And I would love to kind of show me, or let's walk through the steps of moving this person from, okay, maybe the first thing, let's give you clarity on this. They're at crossroads, and you're like, okay, so let's help you take the direction. But then after that, you're more like, but let me show you how I did it so that if you're willing, you can go there next time and pick the decision yourself. Walk me through that process. I feel like it will be enlightening for the person on the other side as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great thing to dive into.
Mm,
So first and foremost, to me, it's going to be about becoming present as possible.
mm,
So when there's lots of opinions and perspectives bouncing around in our head when we're trying to analyze, some people will say this, like they're trying to analyze every single possible outcome that their mind can see. you
mm,
know, that's a lot of energy and it can really start to tax us, mentally when we're doing all of that. analyzing and even potentially like over analyzing. Because to me, again, in my perspective, we're not going to find the answer in the head because our mind can really only go off of what it's experienced in the past. There's no way for the mind to know what's going to unfold in life, even 10 minutes from now. Like life is unpredictable. And even if we have a good idea of the way things might go, a lot of times the details still vary. It might kind of take us to like a similar outcome that we think we're going to arrive at, but the way it actually unfolds can be quite different than what our mind was expecting. I'm sure if you've lived life as a human, you can think of an example of that. So to me, the first thing I do is like I operate from a place of presence. So I'm sitting there being very present. So that's an invitation for someone else to really join me in the present moment, to relax, to begin to breathe, to relax out of the very analytical thinking, and to really drop into their body. Because the body is always in the body is always in the present moment, the moment that's actually happening now. So for you, you're sitting in a room. For me, I'm sitting in a room. This is the present moment. Our body exists in this moment. Our head maybe used to be trying to out in the future, trying to keep everything under control. And that's a future that doesn't even exist. It's abstract, it doesn't even exist. It's just like imagined futures of what we think might be. So it's not even real. The only thing that's real is where our body is in this moment. So I help people come into their body, into this moment, and to relax. Because when you're more dropped in the body, you do start to calm down. Because again, the body is here, and typically the body is safe. Wherever the body is, it's safe, typically most of the time. And so when you connect to your body and you have increased presence, to me, it becomes easier to just hear what the heart has to say. Because I find the heart to be very direct, very direct. And so when someone's calm and dropped into their body, I can ask a very direct question. Like, how do you really feel, keyword feel, about this relationship? Maybe they're in a relationship and the question is, should I leave? When someone's really dropped in the body, where it's easier to hear the heart, typically if I say something like, how do you really feel about this relationship? If the person's in their truth, sometimes it's just like, yeah, well, I've been over it for a while. Like I checked out a long time ago. That might be the truth. Now the mind might be all caught up in like, well, if I leave and then maybe I'll never find someone else, maybe I'll be single for the rest of my life, and maybe this is just the best thing I'll ever, it's like all of these, these what ifs that kind of keep us stuck. Whereas the heart might just be like, yeah, I'm not into this anymore. It's that simple.
So then on that part, if I am coming to you because I have no idea how to be present, because I know people who just can't be present for 1 second. If I'm coming to you because I have the inability to just be present, I'm always racing in my head. And that is the problem in the first place. How are you helping me drop there? Or is it you do it for me until I can't be at a place where I can actually be present? Because I think it may be impossible to help someone who has an ability to be present.
Well, I would offer that when someone's really dropped into their own presence, this is something that Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about, a really great spiritual metaphysical teacher. When you're in a situation where you're having conversation, when one person is super present and dropped in, that is an invitation already, like it's an invitation to join me here in the now. Now, if the person keeps bouncing around and like if I'm seeing like I will, if I'm leading a session, it'll just be like, okay, okay, let's pause. Let's pause and all that. Let's breathe, let's breathe. Like, are you able to feel your body in this moment? Like, are you able to feel the way air is moving into your chest? Like, there's times where it's intuitive on my end. Like I'll just feel what might be best to offer as a practice or guidance in the moment.
Mm,
But I've had people, in sessions, I've had people just like close their eyes. I've helped them to breathe slowly and gently. And I walk them kind of through like a guided meditation where they're
mm,
literally bringing their awareness to every part of their body. So we start in their head. Can you feel your head, your nose, your lips, your
mm,
shoulder? And, that might be like a 6 or 7 minute process. But by the
mm,
time they're done, really in the present moment, feeling their body from head to toe, each part, in a nice, gradual, slow pace.
mm,
Usually, what that does is it relaxes their breathing, and our
mm,
mind follows our breath. So when our breath is more relaxed, like
mm,
our mind tends to calm down as well. When our breath is relaxed, we're more present in the moment. So I
mm,
have ways and techniques that I work with people. And again, it's always intuitive in the moment where
mm,
I help them relax and become more present and in their body. Because again, their body's here now where nothing else is happening, where we're just
mm,
having a conversation, like so
mm,
yeah, to answer your question, I just always sense in the moment, oh, how can I help this person become present?
mm,
And then I work with them to
mm.
lead them in the direction of being present and in their body.
Okay, so number one is presence, dropping in your body, whether you know how to do it or not. There's guidance for that. But for Timothy's process to work, you need to be present in the room, not, envisioning fighting with your spouse once you're on the call. So I want to kind of go through the steps one by one. What's the second one? What's the second step? After I've now come and I'm like here and I can feel my presence with you, then what is the next step? I am learning this process because I've never done it. So you're kind of teaching
Yeah.
me how to do, is it called attunement or channeling or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah. You
Mm-hmm.
could just say it's guided presence essentially. It's guidance into presence.
Mm,
So again, I'm always reading and feeling the person. It's going to be
mm,
different in every situation.
mm,
However, the next thing that comes to mind in our conversation that we're having now is that if there's a question that they're looking to really hear themselves on, and
mm,
now they're more present, now they're more in their body, most likely what I would do, this is just what's coming to me now, is that I would begin to invite them just to feel their heart, even if that's just like placing a hand over their heart.
mm,
And I would probably start to ask them questions and just like say like, questions that don't have to do anything with like the big situation that they're considering. It
mm,
would just be like, other stuff like, what does your heart really have to say about this stuff that doesn't feel like a big deal?
mm,
Like could even say like something like, does your heart want to go to Rome this year? Just really hear what your heart has to say. And the heart might be like, no, I don't have any interest in going to Rome. Or it could be like, oh, Rome sounds really nice, actually. So I'll just,
mm,
get them used to hearing the voice of their heart, like tuning in here, hearing the
mm,
simple, calm answer. Once
mm,
they've heard this a few times and I feel like they're ready, then I
mm,
might throw in the big question and be like, okay, and if I see them starting to like, because you can kind of tell when someone bounces back up to their head, I'll just be
mm,
like, okay, like let's stay here. Let's stay here. What does this have to say? What does
mm,
this heart connection have to say? Like really tune in here. And typically people will just relax and you'll see them kind of just like come back, and then they'll be like, okay, yeah, yep, I know what the answer is. Sometimes they'll just say it or they'll just be like, okay, yep. Okay. That's the heart answer. That's the calm answer. So that's something most likely I would do is I would just get them used to hearing the heart
mm.
before bringing in the big question.
So you don't really give them the answer. You guide them to get it. Yeah, I get it now. Wow. You don't really give them the answer. You just help them to access the answer. And even if they didn't tell you what the answer is, they know intuitively what it is. Wow. That's powerful. So you're not really giving people messages. You're just guiding them to access their own message, which is already there, but covered by, I don't know, dust and noise and all of those things.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that for sure, that's the primary thing. The other piece is
Mm,
there are perspectives that may come through. You could
mm,
say, soul level perspectives that just help people see things from a different light. And
Mm,
usually what the soul level perspectives are doing are helping people see situations outside of all the programming, because
mm,
the soul's not bought into all the programming. The mind is what's bought in. The mind, the kind of like personality self, is what has been bought into the programming for most of their life. So
mm,
sometimes ways of seeing situations or circumstances that go beyond the programming will be presented so
mm,
people can see it from a much different light. And when they see it from a much different light, that also can really help things begin to become more clear. Like they might see the purpose of something being in their life, whereas before they might have been treating it as like the worst thing ever. This should have
mm,
never happened, like woe is me, all this stuff, because, they're just kind of in that place of life is happening to them, if you will.
mm,
Whereas a soul level perspective can maybe help them to see, like, oh, this is so, for instance, just an example that's coming to mind, like, again, like, there's a lot of people that really, there's no judgment in this, but there's a
mm,
lot of people that don't really start to take care of themselves until
mm,
they have a health scare.
mm,
you know they're really not taking that good care of themselves, but then they have a health scare, and now all of a sudden they see the importance of taking care of themselves.
mm,
And so there's the kind of like woe is me perspective of like, oh, why is this health condition happening? It's like the worst thing ever.
mm,
But then you could say maybe a soul level perspective would be like, this health thing was a way to get your attention to
mm,
say like, do you really want to start to take care of yourself? Because when you don't take care of yourself, this is kind of the way that things start to go.
mm.
Things start to kind of fall apart, if you will, or things start to hurt, or, they're just perspectives. People don't have to accept them, but the perspectives do tend to come through just as another way of seeing things, if that makes sense.
So more like the decision comes and maybe, and I'm not sure how I can be sure that it's not even coming from my programming, because I may be present and what I'm picking up is following like the previous stuff, looking for proof, and kind of I might use programming to pick up the decision or the answer. And what you're saying is this perspective. So let's go to a real hard one. Let's go to a real hard one where someone comes and says, I am considering leaving my marriage, but I don't know if it's the right decision. Give me the idea of what perspectives they could have to kind of make a decision that is not guided by programming or conditioning, because people can still make the decision based on the conditioning, maybe from their
Yeah.
parents, or are we going through the healing process before that moment?
Yeah. So yeah, conditioned programming to me looks like that, like if you were told this is the only way to live life, like
Mm,
to to get married and to stay married forever. That's the only way to have a good life.
mm,
Right there, if someone is in, a relationship or a marriage that just isn't working, it doesn't feel right, and deep down they just know it's no longer a fit. They're not happy.
mm,
They don't even want to work on it. It doesn't feel right to work on it.
mm,
They might have a lot of guilt. They might have a lot of guilt because they were always told like this is the only option in
mm,
life, like you have to do it this way, otherwise you're a quote unquote bad person or you're a failure.
mm,
um I've seen, I won't say the specific name, but I remember a certain well-known celebrity actress that very openly talked about that that's what happened to her in her life, that she found herself getting a very public divorce. And
mm,
she kind of was saying that, like, she didn't know who she was anymore because she only ever saw herself having the life that her parents did. And her parents, stayed married, for, basically forever, for decades. So she always thought that, like, that's the life that she would have.
mm,
That's not the way that things turned out. And so
mm,
because they couldn't work it out. And so when she became a divorced person, she said that really challenged who she thought she was.
mm,
She's like, I don't even know who I am because I always thought I would be this person. But again,
mm,
it's all that conditioning and programming that says you have to have this life. This is the only life that's acceptable. And, that's kind of like a one size fits all. And I don't know if you ever tried on, let's say, there's no one size fits all even t-shirt, no t-shirt is going to fit everybody.
Mm,
But there's these programs that society offers. It says you all
mm,
have to fit into this way of living. You all have to
mm.
fit into this idea of living, you know,
Crazy.
but there's no one size fits all. We're all
Mm,
different. Our
mm,
souls, have different plans for our life.
mm,
Um, One way I like looking at it is that there's actually another a spiritual leader who had, like he's very well known in metaphysical circles, and he ended up having a divorce, and people asked him about it, and he just said, the relationship served its purpose. He said, this
mhm,
relationship served its purpose, and so I have peace about it coming undone.
mm,
Because I know that we were together for the time that we were meant to be together. We helped each other learn and grow, and it's just very clear that this particular situation is just it's done. It's no longer needed. So that's another way of looking at it, is that things will last as long as they are serving both people.
mm,
Um, and when they're done serving both people, it may just no longer be needed. That's another, if you ask me, more open way of looking at it.
mm,
But yeah, that's an example of programming that, this is the only way you can live your life. It has to look like this. That's very
mm,
strict,
mm.
limiting programming, if you ask me.
Wow. So step number one is getting present. Step number two is getting the feeling. I think there's a feeling of a yes and a no. And so kind of getting people familiar with, so what's a no, what's a yes, what's a definitely no, what's like,
Yep.
I don't know, sounds, I don't know, sounds like a possibility because your body says, but getting them like used to answering the questions, do you like black or red? Definitely black. Okay. Do you like wine or water? And then those questions kind of give them the rhythm of, do you like I don't know what kind of music? Like you like this music or this music? So people can kind of know, oh, this is a yes, this is a no. And I don't know, I think there's different ways of getting to that. And then you at some point drop in hints of the question of the thing they thought they wanted you to answer for them. And they go, oh, I know what to do with that. Mm. And then
Yeah.
you may educate on perspective of like beyond the knowing that this is the perspective. And then from there, what happens when they get cold feet? They're saying, I want to leave my spouse. And they're looking at their face and going, why? Like you look at them and you're like, you recollect all the things they've done for you, you recollect what you've been through, and you're like, why? You feel like you have cold feet and you don't do it. So what happens if I come and it's clear and then I go back and I get cold feet and I get back in the sand and in the mud? And what happens when that does that happen?
Well, I can't tell anyone what to do, or what they should do, and in
Mm,
air quotes. The only thing that I'm really ever doing is just mirroring back to people how they truly feel. So like,
mm,
like I'll keep bringing them back to like, but how do you really feel? But how do you really feel?
mm,
Because like if they are feeling empty, unfulfilled, they just know it's not a fit, know it's not a match. It may just be a question. Well, like, okay, well, what if you keep going, living the same way for the next year? Like, is this the way that you want to live this next year, feeling unhappy, unfulfilled, trapped? Like I'll just kind of help them reflect, is this, and the answer is their answer. Some people might say, like, if they're too scared, they might say, yeah, I guess I could keep going like this for a year. Like if that's where they're at, that's where they're at. Other people may say, like, and it all just depends on readiness too. Like there's just,
mm,
we each have different levels of readiness. Someone
mm,
who's really ready
mm,
and maybe really wants to explore a new chapter, is ready to see what else is out there, they might say like, no, I don't even want to live like another 2 weeks, like this, and they might realize for themselves like it's time for me to have a conversation, like that might be their own clarity. Again, like I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm not even suggesting what they should do. I'm here operating from how do you really feel? And then
Mm,
I help them get more clear on where they're
mm,
at. So again, if someone's just not ready, then I'll be like, okay, you just don't feel ready. And you're okay, like even if it looks the same for the next year, that's just where you're at. If
mm,
someone else is like, no, I need to I need to live a different life, I'm like,
mm,
okay, that's where you're at. Like you, for you, are just ready
mm,
to live a different life. So I'm
mm,
always just helping people be like, where are you really at? Where are you really at? And it's all about clarity. It's all about their own clarity. I'm just here to
mm.
be like, let's help you get clear.
So you're just the light. You're just the light. I get it because, yeah. I remember when I was doing business coaching before and I didn't know these things. I would get a client, give them a plan. I am over here dreaming big, seeing their biggest potential. And I would say, yeah, if we did this and this and this and this, then you could be over there. And I was convinced it was the best thing for them. But some people, they were like, guess I could, but they were not ready. And I missed that part. They were just not ready to step into their plan. And the mistake that I did is I assumed that everybody was at my level of belief and comfort and confidence. And you could just go and start doing a live tomorrow. And because Prima can do it. And the person would be like, a live, like people were not there. They were not ready. The identity was not there. And I was so disappointed when a week later, a month later, they were just frozen. And I'd be like, what is wrong with this person? Why haven't they written a post? I would even give them like, this is your banner, these are the sample topics. Go create your content. And they wouldn't do it. And I'd be like, what's wrong with this person? But now, coming from where I am now, I need to kind of sense where is this person and what can they or can't do at this point. And everything is okay. People are where they are. And that's okay too. That's okay too. Some people are not ready to charge what they're worth, and that's okay too. Maybe they need to charge what they're charging until they feel like they need to charge more because they feel like they're worthy of more. But I didn't understand all these things once I was doing business coaching and I was just in the 3D world. I was like, we could just create an offer and you could charge 5 grand because of exactly the transformation you give. And someone would be like, but, and I'm like, oh, so you don't think your service is that worth? I'm like, okay, cool. So I'll help you create the offer. But it's not the offer, it's the energy of what they feel they bring to the table. And the energy piece never made sense to me because I feel that people are just in fear or whatever. So this is so good. Tell me about your offers. I know you have them on the website, but it would help for people to know kind of how you support people, the containers, or anything that you have in the back that can help them. And if you don't mind talking through that, that'd be cool.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. So I do help people on let's say like a single session basis. And there's two ways that can look. There is what's called the one-to-one channeled session. And
Mm,
that is, me going into that like very relaxed, heart focused, you could say like soul focused place. And,
mm,
with that, typically my eyes are closed, my head goes backwards a little bit. That just really helps me like, relax and to really feel the energy, the presence of my heart, that kind of like intuitive soul wisdom.
mm,
And so, and people ask questions, to help get clear on their biggest life questions. Like, I was actually kind of surprised when I started doing those sessions that the level of questions that people would ask. Like, I was just, like, because even though I'm very in my heart, like my mind can still like assess things. And like, it's like, man, like these are big life questions, like the biggest things that people are trying to
mm,
understand in their life. Like those are the questions that would be asked. And from that space, again, that intuitive soul wisdom, like whether it's perspectives or guidance, like on the other side, people will just be like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I feel relaxed. I feel clear.
mm,
So there is that, those are called the one-to-one channeled sessions. I do have another,
That's
you could say like,
interesting. So I can come and say, should I have children? Should I get married to John? Should I divorce James? Should I move to LA? Like people can kind of hit you with that. Should I become an atheist or wherever? My God, I'll just run away. I don't know if you should
yeah.
do those things. I have no idea.
Well, again, it's about their own clarity. So it's always going to be guiding them to hear their own truth. So that's the thing is that,
Mm,
it's not about me even channeling the answers. It's about the channeling is just a form of guidance, you could say. It's like
mm,
it's guiding them in their own inner world for them to hear themselves. Because if it's moving to LA, deep down they already know if they want to. Deep down they know if they're ready or not. They may want
mm,
to, they may not be ready. But again, it's about getting into that place of clarity.
mm,
So yeah, whatever the question is, it's about guidance into more clarity.
mm,
I do that. Not everyone is familiar with, channeling. So some people may not even be ready to
mm,
go for a session like that. So I do also offer sessions as what I just refer to as being an intuitive guide. So
mm,
it's similar. It's similar because I'm still tuning into my intuition. It's just that, I'm more, my eyes are open. I'm looking at you, like we're having more conversation. It's a little bit different, as opposed to the channeling session. They both basically have the same outcome in mind, more clarity. It's just that if someone's not feeling that they're ready for a channeling session, like you can just work with me kind of the way that we've been talking, where like again, I'm
mm.
looking at you, you're looking at me, and um,
So,
it's
so the
more,
channeling is more like there's a different, you've gone into your soul and you may
yeah,
just appear different, or I can't tell that you're not in your body at that point. You've connected to your soul and you're speaking to me from another place, which is a scary thing for me, which I fear about those things. But the intuitive guide is more like it's you and I coaching
yeah,
through stuff. I
yeah,
think I'd love that better, where the person is just normal person, non.
yeah.
I think I would personally do the intuitive one because I am not at a level where I'm not at the channeling level. I think I just think
Yeah.
it's scary.
Well, again, I'm not going anywhere. It's just like I'm very focused into so I'm still in my body. I'm just very focused into my heart. And,
Mm,
like there have been people that don't really understand it that have still like, wanted to have sessions. And, when the perspectives come through or the guidance comes through, like people typically say, like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. Like,
mm,
like, it's very practical. It's very like grounded, like everyday life. So even people who aren't quite sure about it, like, and have had sessions, they'll say things like, well, the response that you just gave me makes absolute perfect sense. So like it's just, yeah, it's about your own
mm,
openness. And if you need to research it, like find out more, I know you're going to be providing my links, so you can always, and I
mm,
have lots of samples that you can check out. Like you can see lots of samples to see if it's something that feels,
mm,
that's speaking to you or not. But yeah, I do have the other version, which is the intuitive, like, talking the way
mm,
that you and I have been talking today. And then I do, so those are single session offerings, like you just like a one session thing.
mm,
However, you can do a session this week and next week, you can do 3 weeks in a row if you want. It's up to you. But then I do have ongoing work where you are making a commitment to a period of time, let's say 3 to 6 months, 3 to 6 months. And that I refer to as transformational work, life transformation work. And so
mm,
that is where we are coming to an agreement that, you really want to do, you're making a commitment to yourself essentially to
mm,
shift things in your life. Maybe it is about the fact that you want to just listen to yourself more often, and it's going to take practice. That it's going to require you to build confidence.
mm,
And so we're going to meet, for 3 to 6 months, and we're going to help you tune into yourself. We're going to help you work on being more confident in yourself. And there's other times where people do come to me about significant life situations, and they're just like, I feel like I'm going to need ongoing work for me to really have a shift in this area of my life. They're like, I know it's not going to happen overnight. I
mm,
know it's not going to change in one session, but like, if I become a different kind of person in 3 to 6 months, I might be able to really transform this area of my life. And so that's why I refer to it as life transformation work. And yeah, I mean, I love that the most personally, just because watching people have that ongoing progress, that, you know, that progress that happens week after week, and seeing how, so for instance, some people may want to work more on their boundaries, you know, like they're a people pleaser and they've been a people pleaser their entire life. They may want to work on having more boundaries, speaking how they really feel more often, not just agreeing with everybody all the time. These are just examples. And so when someone's realizing like, oh, I don't want to be the people pleaser that I've been for the past 30 years, you know, that may take ongoing practice, you know, for even a few months. And there are people that really want to transform something like that. So that's just an example of something that might be worked on in an ongoing container, is that people are like, just an example, like, I don't want to be a people pleaser anymore. Like, I want to speak what I really feel, share, you know, my own opinions, and you know, not live life the way everyone else is always telling me to. So yeah, that could be a 3 month thing, a 6 month thing, because it's different for everyone. So again, that's referred to as the ongoing transformational work.
Timothy, we're winding up. Are you wanting to have some final words, or did you already say, do we miss anything that you feel people need to hear?
Yeah, I'm just contemplating what might be what feels like the best final thing to offer. So I feel what's coming up for me is just to share from my own experience that life used to feel so dramatic for me. You know, it felt like kind of like a drama train in a lot of ways. And it's because I used to operate from that, you know, that lack of clarity, that confusion, you know, all of the people pleasing, the programming. And because I've been doing this work for so long, it's in a lot of ways just life is very peaceful. Life is very calm. There's still uncertainty about, you know, a lot of things. There's still challenges, if you will. What's shifted is my ability to be able to be with life in a different way, in a more calm way, focused way, even more patient way, more loving, understanding way for myself and others. So what's really shifted is that life has just become a lot more calm and peaceful, even in sometimes a lot of uncertainty, even in a lot of uncertainties. So what's shifted is my relationship that I'm having with the rest of life, my own human experience. So if that's something that you desire for yourself, that you want for yourself, I'm just here to say that in my own experience, it's possible. I'm living it, and it's been possible for me. And so I feel what's possible for me is also possible for others. So I'm just here to say, like, if you desire a more peaceful life, I believe that you can become a more peaceful person and have a more peaceful relationship with life. So that's what I'll leave on the table for everyone.
I'll end with a big disclaimer. We didn't say that Timothy heals, I don't know, gets people to not commit suicide, helps people avoid that. Like, we didn't say that he's a divorce lawyer. We didn't say any of the things. He's just someone who has positioned himself as a vessel. And his work is to help people connect with their inner guidance, which is already there. And it's been an experience for him. He's seen it work with other people. And we are just showing up and hoping that someone else could use that guidance. So that's a big disclaimer out there, because the internet can go, someone can take your 3-second clip, you know, and turn it into something it's not. And so this just a full disclaimer right there. None of these experts that we bring on are giving you any guarantees. They're just sharing the experience, the work they do with other people. And they're saying it's worked for us. It may work for you. We would love to share our experience with you if it works for you. Now, if it doesn't work for you, please don't take them to the FBI. They're just trying to position themselves as a vessel to help people go through the same thing that they've gone through. It's worked for them. They hope it works for you. I hope that served. Please share this episode. Please comment, subscribe, review, do all the amazing things. As always, I'll talk to you very soon. And thank you for today.
Thank you so much.
That is it, my friend. To listen to more exclusive interviews like this one, simply go to the World's Best Kept Secret podcast.com and select interviews based on preferred topic.